Hello, namaste everyone. Welcome to my webinar, the topic of which is the make or break power of communication in daily lives. You might be curious about how I chose this topic, which isn't completely new, but is still very important for all of us to understand, use,
Hello, namaste
and
everyone
incorporate.
to my webinar, topic of
Sorry about it. The YouTube was also streaming, so it started with that also. So just 3 days ago, we all observed World Mental Health Day. But do we merely mark these days for the sake of observation? Or do we truly gain something valuable from them? In our lives, while there are benefits, they often seem very insignificant compared to the suffering of many people who are going through. They suffer for mental health. We have all heard this saying, no, prevention is better than cure. Do we apply this principle to our lives, especially concerning our mental health? Whether we step out of our homes or remain within them, conflicts, agitation, and negative discourse seem to surround us. All too often, these verbal battles give rise to stress, anxiety, and emotional distress. We invest in communication, training, and degrees for our workplaces. Yet, we often lack the necessary skills for our day-to-day interactions with our loved ones at home, our neighbors, and the people we encounter. Tonight, we will address these moments of conflicts and learn essential communication skills applicable to our daily lives. To provide us with valuable insights, I have invited my friend, an exceptional communication coach, Mrs. Rashmi Keshwani, as the guest speaker for this webinar. Rashmi is an ICF certified international trainer and coach who resides in Mumbai with her lovely family. I'm deeply grateful to her for accepting my invitation to co-venture on this webinar. I had a lot of questions. And as I started my coaching career, life coaching career and counseling, I educate myself with a technique called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And today, we will go through another CBT, that is communication behavioral techniques. And my friend Rashmi will talk about it. She will teach us the various aspects of communication that can be very valuable and essential for all of us today. Without wasting any time, I will ask her to switch on the video and come live. Rashmi, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chiradeep. Are you able to hear me, Chiradeep?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here. Very good evening to you and a very, very good evening to all of you who have joined here today for this webinar. We truly appreciate your time here with us today. Firstly, once again, thank you, Chiradeep, for inviting me to be able to give my perspective and my 2 cents about the make and break power of communication in our daily lives. If I may add this, what I was particularly drawn or why I was really particularly drawn to this webinar when we had this discussion a few days ago was really the context of today's webinar. Because kya ho raha hai na, on a daily basis, I love my job, the work that I'm doing around the training and coaching space. But today, I think the discussion is not purely around skill sets or parameters or competencies or how to communicate effectively at a workplace. But the focus really is about relationships. Communicate better to build relationships, which Chiradeep and everyone, unfortunately, has taken a severe hit in our times, especially, I think, post post-COVID, post-2020, whether it is a relationship at workplace, in a family, in a social setup with friends, all of us, I'm sure, at some level are experiencing some struggles at varied degrees. Yeah. So before I even start this session with you, and before I could really give my views to the questions that you have for me today, if you allow me, Chiradeep, I would like to emphasize the essence of today's discussion. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
So the essence really for all the audiences, of course, the power of communication in relationships. Now, speaking of communication, what is communication? Let's understand that. And while I was preparing for this webinar, I thought, thoda sa textbook wala definition dekh lete. So I quickly went to Google a few days ago and I said, let's understand where this word communication came in the first place. Where did it originate from? So I learned, Chiradeep, that communication as a word is derived from a Latin word called communicare, which really means to share or to participate or impart information. Yeah. So a communicare word was really quite appealing for me because isme kafi kuch samajh mein aa jata hai. If you break these two words, there are two elements in this entire word communicare. The one element talks about communication and the second element talks about care, which means you communicate, but you do so with a certain care, with a certain awareness, with the right intention, with a certain clarity, if you will. So that is the essence I wanted to really share in our session today. And I hope that we are all on the same page now with respect to our understanding of this word communication in today's session. So on that note, I'm happy to start, answering any of the questions that you have for me today, Chiradeep, in the context of relationships. Over to you.
Yeah. As Rashmi has already told about question that I'm going to ask some questions. These questions were in my mind for a long time since I studied CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. These questions have come because the first in CBT, the first thing that I ask my clients is find out, seek the source of negativity, negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. So if we talk about today's webinar, today's topic, so communication behavioral therapy techniques, if we are going to listen to Rashmi about it, then the first thing is that was my idea, that to get to the root of all the conflicts. So that is when we miscommunicate, when we don't communicate with care, as Rashmi said, communicate with care. That's communicate. Okay. So that's the sole motive of this webinar. And I don't have a black box, but I have a black bag. And in that bag, I have a few cardboards, okay? And I specially prepared for all of you. So in this cardboard, in this bag, I have 6 cardboards, okay? So these are all prepared for all of you, okay? And for Rashmi. These are all puzzles which we are going to solve today, which Rashmi is going to bring light on it. So,
right.
So the first card, if I pick up, okay, you can see it's written, it's okay. So let's start with it's okay. Okay. So the first question I have for Rashmi is, can we start with you sharing some insights on why effective communication is so essential in our daily lives, especially in building relationships?
Wow, that's a great question. So to answer this question, I think that the answer to this question, Chiradeep, is in the question itself. Why is effective communication so essential? But during COVID days, we used to talk about essential commodities. Why were we terming things as essential commodities? Is because there was a lack of something in the house. So when we are saying essential commodities, we're talking about there being a lack of something in the context of communication. So when there is a lack, that lack sometimes poses as a challenge to us, and it creates some kind of discomfort or some kind of an inconvenience for us to be able to function. So most often than not, when we lack something, especially in today's times, we look for, reels on Instagram to give us advice, or we talk to people, or we maybe would take up some coaching or training or whatever it is to improve our skill sets, which is important, by the way, and we must continue to do that. But in the context of relationships, my view is slightly different, Chiradeep, today. And I don't want to view this entire topic very technically or very objectively. Yeah, I want to view this at a very elementary level, at a very core level. Yeah. So sometimes, excuse me, Mumbai's weather is not awesome. The Mausam is not awesome. So sometimes, in fact, not sometimes, a lot of times we are doing all the thinking from here. Yeah. I think in the context of relationships, while we think from here, we must also think from here. Because when you do the thinking and feeling from here, you will know that the answer lies at the core of your being. And this core, my dear friends, today has two elements that we just discussed at the beginning of the session. One being to communicate, and two being doing so with care. Yeah. So अब आप इसे compassion कहिए, empathy kahiye, rapport, active listening, comprehension, interpretation, whatever amount of names you want to give it, you can give, because those then become the parameters to be able to achieve effective communication. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Chiradeep, what we need to do to achieve effective communication is first communicate. And when we communicate, like I said, I'm reiterating this, we communicate with a certain awareness, we communicate with a certain care. And for the communication to become effective, these elements, these parameters that I just spoke about, become very real. So वो lack को हम directly target कर सकते हैं, तब तक जब तक वो lack ना रहे. And when we are able to communicate well, automatically relationships maintain भी होंगी और build भी होंगी. So that's what I really wanted to share with respect to your first question.
Yeah, it's a very simple, though very essential, but simple question.
Absolutely.
But the more we, as you said, the answer is in this question. So the more we want to do it, we care to do it, we will do it.
Absolutely.
So anyway, moving on to the next question, the next puzzle for you. What, according to you, are the common communication barriers that hinder or come in way of empathetic communication? As you said, communicate with care. So many times we communicate well, but we don't communicate empathetically. So what are those barriers that you understand or you want to tell us about? Those are hinder us to communicate empathetically, and how can people overcome them?
Got it. So when we talk about, जैसे हम अगर किसी इंसान की बात करते हैं, when we talk about what are they good at, yeah, so which means the strengths. So when we think about it, 4 या 5 चीजें हमारे दिमाग में आती है most of the times. But when we talk about इसमें क्या खामियां है, तो एक लंबी सी लिस्ट आ जाती है. The same thing actually is coming to my mind right now, Chiradeep, because since I'm doing this day in and day out, this is a topic that is trending. Barriers of communication. सब जगह पे इसकी चर्चा हो रही है. Yeah. So there are a couple of parameters that are coming on top of my head, which I will probably talk about now in the interest of time. The first barrier that comes to me, and which I think everybody in the audience will be able to resonate with, but slightly differently today, is listening. अभी listening एक parameter है which is very common. तो आप बोलोगे इसमें खास क्या है? The point is, although it's a common parameter, it is a very important parameter. Yeah. How? I will tell you. हम हमेशा बोलते सामने वाले सुनते नहीं है. The question today for all of you, yeah, is, are you a good listener? And how do you gauge that you are a good listener? Yeah. So to really answer that question or get those answers from you, I want to ask you 3 questions. And this question is for everybody in the audience. You can feel free to add your response in the chat box in 1 word. Yeah. The first question is, do you have the desire to listen? Firstly. Yeah. So when I say desire, I'm talking about क्या आपके पास सुनने की इच्छा है? Number 1. Number 2, do you have the patience to listen? Now, to translate that into Hindi for some of our viewers, some of our audiences, क्या आपके पास सुनने की क्षमता है? I think that's what patience means, right? So सुनने की क्षमता है. And the third question to really identify if you are a good listener is the capacity to listen. क्या आपके पास सुनने की ताकत है? So if you have an answer in a yes, in an affirmative manner for any of these 3 questions, मतलब आप अच्छे listener है. Most of the times we don't gauge ourselves as a listener. We are gauging the person in front of us. This person is not a good listener. This employee is not a good listener. But if you are able to check them in all these questions, they are fantastic listeners. You don't have to go through parameters like passive listening, active listening, reflective listening. Those are parameters which are meant for us to have some knowledge around this entire topic. But in reality, में क्या है? आपके real life relationships में, are you a good listener? Firstly, because here we are not discussing about how to change someone else. It's about understanding what we need to do in our communication for daily lives. Yeah. So firstly, क्या आपके पास ये 3 चीजें है? You can put it in the chat box and we'll view it in some time. If you have, okay, Shipra says depends on the topic. All right. Yes. Okay. So neki ichha. Right. That's a very honest answer. Thank you so much, Shipra, for that. So if you have at least 2 answers as yes, then yes, you are kind of a good active listener. So don't be too hard on yourself. So it doesn't become a real barrier. But if you don't have a yes to any of these answers, then my dear friend, you need to really work on your listening. And that is the biggest barrier to your communication. Yeah. You can call yourself whatever you want, and I'm a great listener. But if you don't have the checks in these questions, you're not a good listener. Why? Because nowadays, as human beings, of course, with so much of information coming from everywhere, we are so wired to reacting and respond then rather than responding with a preconceived mindset about a particular topic. कि हमें सुनना ही नहीं है, हमें सिर्फ बोलना है. मेरी बात सुनो, तुम मेरी बात सुनो. Honestly, how many people in this webinar are really listening? I don't know. Can I see a quick hands up? Can I see a thumbs up or a raise of hand just for me to know? All right, Zefa, Avinash, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Really appreciate that. Excellent. So that reassures me for this particular session. Okay, so बोलना है, सुनना नहीं है. And जब हम सुनते नहीं है, तो एक तो हमें पता नहीं चलता क्या बोल रहा है सामने वाला. और दूसरा क्या होता है, which is a byproduct of listening, which is your second barrier for communication, that is assumption. Do you agree? Yeah. So why is assumption a barrier? जब आप assume करते हैं, which means it's a half information. It's a dangerous thing to be in a dangerous space to be in. You may not have an open mind when you're assuming. Just a small example. Somebody says, इसने मुझे ये चीज 2 बार बोली, शायद ये मुझे ताने मार रहा है या ताने मार रही है. अरे बाबा, have you thought of the possibility that सामने वाला आपको reinforce करने के लिए 2 चीजें बोल रहा है, एक चीज दोबारा बोल रहा है, repetitively बोल रहा है. They don't have to have an agenda always. Yeah. So ये assumption कब आएगा? When you don't have an open mind or you're not listening. So that is the second barrier that immediately comes to my mind after listening. The third barrier, while I have many, Chiradeep, I'll probably stick to 3 or 4 in the interest of the time in this webinar. The third one I have to mention, guys, and I'm sure you will be able to resonate with this. The third one is our emotional state. Like how Chiradeep described at the start of the session. What is your emotional state? Are you feeling anger? Are you feeling sad? Are you experiencing fear or anxiety or whatever you call it? Those negative emotions, they become the biggest barrier because of that emotional state, individuals either get very aggressive or they get extremely defensive. Some of them literally lash out in a conversation. Daily conversation की बात कर रही हूँ मैं. At workplace, people can't do that so often, but daily की बात कर रही हूँ. Or people completely shut down. And shut down का मतलब क्या हुआ? In relationships, silent treatment. बात ही नहीं हो रही. So you need to be very aware of your emotional state. And emotional state is one of the biggest barriers. Yeah. Fourth point, which I recently heard in one of the webinars, and I really like that point, which is what I want to share here, is a certain imbalance in power. एक relationship में when there is a significant imbalance of power. Imbalance of power का मतलब one person is very dominant, very finicky, very controlling. They have the capacity to stifle the conversation. And the other person, on the other hand, feels less powerful and fearful while expressing their opinions or thoughts. So clearly an imbalance. Yes. We have time. Yeah. Okay. So one last one, which I really wanted, which is like popping into my head, and I have to share that. And this happened with me 2 days ago with my kids. And it's so fresh in my mind. So the fourth or fifth point that I'm talking about is timing and environment acting as a barrier. कैसे? एक person India और पाकिस्तान का match देख रहा है. What is the, at least for us Indians, what is the focus? Cricket match. Yeah. उसी वक्त उनकी spouse या बच्चे आके कुछ सवाल पूछते हैं. Let's take an example of a spouse. Spouse is saying, खाने में क्या बनाना है? The spouse is saying, you know what, something happened today, I want to talk to you. And the banda is probably very empathetic. And that person wants to respond and wants to listen. But no, I want to focus on the match, which is okay, because that is what some of us are passionate about. So यहाँ पे बंदे को काम नहीं करना है. यहाँ पे the person who's watching the match is not accountable for the transaction in that conversation. यहाँ पे the person who's speaking is accountable because you're not watching the timing. ये empathy रखो, ये सब parameters है. Real life में इसे कैसे यूज करना है, ये बात को समझना बहुत जरूरी है. ऐसे तो बोलने के लिए हमारे पास बुक्स में, चैट जीपीटी में सब जगह पे पॉइंट्स आते हैं. बट इज इट रियली प्रैक्टिकल? तो अगर एक पर्सन आपको ऐसे टाइम पे गलत टाइमिंग पे सवाल पूछता है, एंड देन दे एक्सपेक्ट यू टू रिस्पॉन्ड, एंड इफ यू डोंट रिस्पॉन्ड इन द मैनर दैट दे वांट, क्या होता है? कूटना होता है, झगड़ा हो जाता है. Yeah, so timing is very important. Or if you're discussing a very sensitive topic, you better be in a secluded place and not in a very crowded, noisy place, just for that conversation to be productive. So these are the barriers, you know, that I really feel are very practical barriers that people face in day-to-day lives.
Yeah,
Yes.
excellent, excellent.
Thank you.
These 4 barriers, these are very simple barriers, because in other webinars or in textbook, we will find many other barriers. Like if we want to list out, we can go on listing.
There are hundreds. There are hundreds. Yeah.
There are hundreds of barriers we can see. But listening, assumptions, yeah, we always keep something in our mind and we come. And then emotional state, कैसे है हम लोग, किस तरह से है, ऑफिस से आए हुए हैं, घर में क्या हुआ है वो पूछना जरूरी है. We take things for granted and we just blabbering हम लोग का शुरू हो जाता है. And imbalance, this is something which is a simple thing, but you gave a good name, imbalance in power, like status. अगर ब्रिज में नहीं आएंगे तो हम मिलना नहीं होगा.
Correct.
You cannot meet a person who is down there. You have to come down to his level, her level to, so that you can communicate with somebody else.
Sure.
So that's excellent. So let me go ahead with my third question. That is, strain in communication often results in misunderstanding and conflicts. Okay. And conflicts, misunderstanding and conflicts. What advice do you have for addressing such scenarios that arise due to miscommunication in daily life, which is quite similar to the previous one, barriers, but this is a little different.
Sure.
You put little light on it.
Sure. Firstly, can we avoid conflicts?
Yeah.
Not really.
No.
Relationship hoga to conflicts bhi honge.
Ji.
But how we manage the conflicts, how we handle the conflicts is what matters. अगर मेरे पास आज 5 toffees है, and if I have to give these 5 toffees to someone, naturally I will be giving it to people who are close to me or who matter to me, right? So in the context of the question that you asked, I think it's really important that we understand where to invest our energy in resolving those conflicts. Yeah. Does that relationship, jahan pe aapki conflict ho rahi hai, does that relationship matter to you? If it does, then you work on it. If it doesn't, why even bother figuring out kaise karna hai? चाहे वो आपके professional relationships हो या आपके personal relationships हो, social, whatever. Yeah. If it is important to you, if that particular relationship is important to you, then you as a human being would automatically know where to operate from. Yeah. अगर कोई बच्चा मेरे से झगड़ा कर रहा है, तो I will know where to operate from. Yeah. Easier said than done. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And that's when we need to figure out, like the question, Chiradeep, कि आपको क्या करना है? How do you address conflicts or misunderstandings in daily life? So the first thing, हम क्या कर सकते हैं? सबसे पहली बात, when you are in a state of, in a space where there's a conflict, आपको क्या feel हो रहा है? झगड़ा हो रहा है, miscommunication, जो भी argument हो रहा है, what are you feeling? Most of the times we feel angry or upset, which is making our breathing very heavy. And in that state, जैसे मैंने emotional state की बात की, क्या होता है? We go all out झगड़ा करने में. There is no solution that comes out of it. Because when our emotions are running high, it can come in the way of our thinking and our reactions. And that is a very dangerous space to be, by the way. Especially impulse reactions are super dangerous because they don't only have a mental impact, but it can actually have a physical impact as well on individuals, which is when all this translates to abuse, unfortunately, which is a very strong word I'm using here. So first thing, कोई भी conflict resolve करने से पहले, very basic advice. It might sound like a grandma's advice right now. Stay calm. Easier said than done, but if we practice taking deep breaths in certain situations, एक practice करते करते वो practice habit बन जाती है. Yeah, it's not going to come overnight. You have to stay calm. Shanti. Take a few deep breaths. First, calm yourself. Only then will your path or your ideas of or your understanding of dealing with that situation will become unclogged in your mind. You will have more clarity. So that's one. Number 2. जैसे मैंने बताया, if the relationship matters to you, yeah, whether it is your fault or their fault, if the relationship is meaningful to you, don't play the blame game. क्या होता है? झगड़ा होता है, तुम्हारी गलती है, तुमने ऐसे बोला, मैंने वैसा नहीं बोला, तुमने वैसे बोला. So blame game starts in the fight itself. Yeah. So second thing, very basic thing is probably, not doing the blame game. And the third point, which I really would request everybody to pay attention to, is your body language. because we're talking in the context of communication, I have to add this point. Your body language, your non-verbal cues. पता है, sometimes we're doing everything right, but कभी-कभी किसी की बातों से ज्यादा उसकी शक्ल देख के बहुत गुस्सा आता है, उनका चेहरा देख के बहुत गुस्सा आता है, उनकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज देख के बहुत गुस्सा आता है. And then there is no scope for anything else to do when you don't like somebody's body language. Imagine आप मुझसे बात कर रहे चिरदीप, you have a fight with me and I am doing this. बोलो बोलो, हाँ मैंने कुछ बोला भी नहीं, but I'm doing this. इसका मतलब क्या है? आपको ये लग रहा है कि हाँ बाबा ये भी झांसी की रानी बन के, I don't know, she's going to start fighting with me. Yeah. Or somebody's crossed the hands or put the hands on the hips or whatever. Yeah. With a very closed position that I'm not listening to you. You better listen to me. So before even I'm blurting out the words, my body language is communicating. And there is this rule that 75% of our communication happens because of body language. And 25% is verbal skills. I'm not saying that aap khali body language pe focus kijiye, but it does help you in the overall process. Yeah. So that is a very, very important point to consider. So I said, stay calm. What was the other one?
Stop the blame game.
Stop the blame game, and then the body language. The fourth point, again, it's pretty much in line with what I said, is being humble and accepting your mistakes. गलती किसी की भी हो, अगर आप accept करें या आप apologize करें, we don't become small. In fact, we remain big in the longer run. Yeah. So if the relationship matters to you, apologize, or at least accept your mistake. You don't have to apologize, maybe think about it later, but at least accept your mistake. And the fifth point, which I think Chiradeep mentioned in one of the points where he was summarizing, was finding a midway. Okay. Which is what is done in professional setups. Professional setups में आप ऐसे बहुत सारे aggressive fights या conflicts नहीं देखेंगे. Everybody tries to find a midway. But personal relationships में इतना नहीं होता है. You know, in Mumbai, there is a slang called, बच्चों को हम use करते हैं, fittus, or a more famous slang would be mandavli. I don't know how many people know that here. Mandavli का मतलब है compromise करो, finding a middle way. So agree to disagree in sophisticated language. I just used a very pedestrian language. Sorry about that. But a very, from a sophisticated language perspective, finding a middle ground, a middle path where दोनों गलत है और दोनों सही भी है, but you have to find a common ground, because once you come in the middle, चल छोड़ यार, मिट्टी पाओ, forget about it. Yeah, new day, new conflicts. So this will definitely help you build your foundation of your relationships. Yeah, so that's what I think I wanted to share, Chiradeep. Thank you so much.
This is really lovely. I mean, does the relationship matter to you? You know, in case of reconciliation also.
Yeah.
If it is not, it is, if you don't desire to have that, I mean, you don't want to reconcile. If I suppose I had a fight with Rashmi, and if I don't have the desire to reconcile with Rashmi, then I will definitely, I mean, I can't stay calm if I see her in the party or whatever, wherever. I can't stop blaming her. I can't displaying or showcasing my body languages, whatever intimidating body languages, and I won't be able to try to even close to be humble. I will always try to overpower.
True. Absolutely.
And forget about finding a midway. So all these 5 points comes under one aspect, that is, does the relationship matters to you? If it matters to you, then please follow these 5 beautiful points and go ahead. Okay. So guys, are you enjoying? Show some love emojis or clap emojis so that we will know that you are listening. And okay, thank you so much. Number four. Do you have any real life examples or success stories where improved communication skills positively impacted professional relationships or outcomes? You know, without demo दिखाना जरूरी है. So success stories and examples, illustrations are very important. So please, if you can put some light on it.
See, there are success stories, and I'm very happy to see those success stories very now and then, very often through trainings and coaching sessions. But merely success story tab hoti hai, Chiradeep, when I see the person has actually made an attempt to achieve that goal. They've practiced and they've done all these things to really achieve, and not merely giving me a random testimonial saying, oh, this helped. When I see that transformation, when I see that upward trajectory in whatever they're trying to achieve, that is a success story for me, to be very honest. So there is this one particular person that I want to talk about, and it's a very vivid memory that I have from a few years ago. This person was a senior leader, and he was a colleague. Actually, we're from the same organization, but I was doing training and coaching back then as well. So he's a senior leader and he's to handle service quality vertical. And he had aced a lot of areas in his professional life. There was no doubt about it. And I used to really look up to him as well in so many ways. But there was this one thing, you'll be surprised, that kept bothering him, and that kept him from showcasing his complete potential. And you know what that was, Chiradeep? It was his inability to speak English fluently. He was great with his written English, but his inability to communicate in English. And he thought because of that, his relationships are getting impacted. That is, his team relationships and his social skills were getting impacted. That was his belief system. So in our coaching journey, we were, of course, able to uncover the goals. We would talk very often. We're sitting in the same cubicle, really. Somewhere he began to realize that English was just a business language, which was essential for our work, no doubt. But that may or may not be a prerequisite to making friends or building a social circle or building a strong presence in front of his team members. And he somewhere realized that there was way too much focus on the lack. Jaise maine starting mein bataya, lacking something. Yeah. And he, because of that focus on the lack, he kept suppressing himself further day in and day out. Ki mere se ye sahi nahi ho raha hai, this person doesn't like me, I'm not able to go and fit in into a party and so on, all those things. So in our sessions together, somewhere we kept exploring different solutions. Kuch trial and error bhi kiya humne, kuch cheeze work ki, kuch cheeze work nahi ki. Finally, you know what really helped? I think what really helped was a certain change in his mindset, a certain shift in his focus and energies. Like I said at the start, lack se shift. Lab pe kaam karna hai, lekin you need to shift on your strengths as well. So when he realized that, he started working on two things. And I remember those two things very, very vividly. The first thing that he did, Chiradeep, which may not appear very, very significant as a parameter, was strengthening his non-verbal skills, his body language. You won't believe, just with the right posture, just with the right expressions, his use of hands, the way he was walking, isme changes lane ki wajah se, he was able to assert himself in front of his team members, or in general, in front of general janta. Yeah. Irrespective of non-fluency in English. He learned how to push back, not being taken granted. He learned to create certain professional boundaries around him. He somewhere built that executive presence, jisko hum bolte hai, gravitas. There's a concept called gravitas, and people who are trainers here would probably know. A very, very important aspect of communication. So, is pe unhone kaam kiya. Number one, day in and day out, not on the concept level. Number two, I used to see him reading a lot of self-help books, yeah, and improving his language. He used to, us time pe to itna sara available nahi tha, like YouTube and stuff. We had to just rely on Ask Jeeves and Google and stuff. To us pe kafi sara padhte the. That's how he started improving his communication, learning 2 words new day, applying it in his language, asking me, is it sounding good? Am I not sounding artificial? And all those kind of things. So I really saw that man practicing these two things, the body language and of course, working on his lack, which was his communication skills. So doing that day in and day out, somewhere I feel became a habit for him. And that habit is what created the transformation. It didn't happen overnight. I'm not going to just say it for the heck of it. It didn't happen overnight. So because of that, although I'm not saying he's 80% there, but he's definitely come above 50%. And he's viewed very differently by his peers. And because of these habits and this improvement, it automatically had an impact on his personal life, on his social skills. Because it was no longer about mere mein ye kami hai, mere mein wo kami hai. It was more about main is kami ko kaise acha kar sakta hu? How can I improve? So for me, really, Chiradeep, it was an inspiration. This man was an inspiration for me, this colleague, this coachee of mine, and I take a lot of pride in sharing this success story with you. So yeah, so the point is, don't focus on the lack too much. Use your energy to focus on what is already good. आप में ऐसा क्या अच्छा है, उसी को जागर कीजिए, and keep working on the areas that you lack. That's it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So
you actually, we were talking about daily lives, and you went into professional life as well, because this is an example from professional point of view.
Yeah.
While counseling also, I have seen many couples or many boys and girls, when they report me and they say that, yeah, my behavior has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like one success story I have, the first, and I mean the very foremost, the first illustration is myself. When I started educating myself, I changed. Okay. So in our day-to-day life, the more we educate ourselves, the more we practice, the more we kindle, I mean, the fire, or push the desire we have to build relationship, the more we will be easier on this side, like communicare, as you say.
True.
Okay. So moving on to my fifth question, fifth puzzle for you. In your experience, what are some of the most common pitfalls or challenges that people face when trying to improve their communication skills, despite being aware of what is right or wrong? And how can they overcome them? Now, a little bit of skills are necessary.
Right.
Because, I mean, on what they will practice, or they need a base.
Got it.
What are those skills?
Got it. See, unlike a few decades ago, where if we wanted to learn something, either we had to enroll into a course, or we had to, I don't know, read some books or take some guidance from a mentor, family mentor, or otherwise. We are no longer living in that age, Chiradeep. We are living in an age which is an age of information. We have information on our fingertips. हम कई तरीके से इसके बारे में पढ़ सकते हैं, how to improve your communication skills. But the challenge is, हम बहुत कुछ पढ़ते हैं और उसको किताब में लिख के बंद करके रख देते हैं, या यहाँ पे रख के ज्ञान बांटते हैं. But how much do we use it? Yeah. And do you know when the improvement starts? The improvement starts when you take action. Yeah. ये challenge तब बरकरार रहता है when you end up focusing on the wrong parameters which may not yield results that you are desiring. अब ये wrong parameters क्या है? बहुत simple चीज मैं बताऊंगी आपको, since we are at 7:45. Very quickly, I'll tell you a very, very impactful thing. I can resonate with that with my story. And this parameter or this view is called log kya kahenge. Yeah. So when I started my career, at the genesis of my career, let me tell you, I did not have very strong communication skills. I'm still learning. But back then it was not that great. I came from a great school, English medium school tha, but the language that we used to speak was not English in the classrooms. It was everything, mother tongue, Marathi, Hindi, everything. But my friends belonged to convent schools. So when I used to have a conversation with them, I used to really find myself sitting in one corner because it was very difficult for me to fluently speak in English or even pronounce the words correctly. For example, words like pizza. I should say pizza instead of pizza. Yeah. So wo daur tha. Of course, with guidance from some of my mentors, I did some personality development courses because I started working early. And then I joined a BPO a few years into my career. And I had some trainers, voice and accent trainers who trained me on how to speak, what kind of sounds should you aspirate on, the per, ter, ker, all that. And I found it really fascinating. जिस तरह से वो बात करते थे, जिस तरह से अपना body language use करते थे, I was very, very inspired. I said, wow, I want to be like that. That was my desire, very strong desire. तो मैंने क्या किया, जब मैं training करती थी, attend करती थी, I used to practice on a daily basis. और जब मैं practice करती थी, पता है क्या होता था? I would expect people around me to say, wow, you're changing, things are good. But instead, what was I hearing? अरे तू क्या accent मार रही है? अरे why are you talking like this? Talk normally, no? Yeah, if I would put my shoulders back and walk neatly, तू तो बहुत तार के चल रही है. These are the actual comments I used to receive, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure a lot of us do. Not just in communication. कोई भी change हम जिंदगी में करते हैं. Just something as simple as the way we dress. Instantly, 70% of people will question that change. Maybe 30% will support it and like it. Yeah. So अगर हम वो 70% में पड़े रहे, then transformation is not possible. लोग क्या कहेंगे? Whether it's a personal, professional setup. Another example, I used to speak very fast. I still do. I'm still consciously making an effort to speak slowly. And people who knew me knew I spoke very fast. So when I used to take pauses and speak, they used to say, ऐसे क्यों बात कर रही है? Yeah, things like that. तो अगर आपको communication में improve करना है, चाहे वो personal level पे हो, professional level पे हो. Sorry about that, guys. You have to overcome this challenge of log kya kahenge. Just practice. Just 1 second, Chiradeep.
Yeah.
It is just this bad cough that I have. So a lot of practice is essential. Second point, like I said, seeking inspiration. Like I'm sorry, I just need to have some water. Just give me a second.
Please. I hope all of you are enjoying it because Rashmi is speaking worth. It's very valuable lessons that we always hear, but we kind of take things for granted. There she is back.
Sorry about that. It's just a very bad cough that I have.
I was just
I'm able to speak today, thanks to the Almighty and His powers. So yeah, like I was saying, log kya kahenge is what I was talking about. The second thing is about seeking inspiration. आपके life में कोई ना कोई role model होगा. सबके life में होता है. It doesn't have to be a celebrity. Now for me, my role model was my trainer. And I love Sushmita Sen. I love Priyanka Chopra. The way they speak, the way they conduct themselves, the way they pronounce words, the way they, impactfully share their ideas. And that's what I wanted to inculcate in the way I speak. There's nothing wrong in that. अभी यहाँ पे अगर कोई बोलेगा, then where is your authenticity? Your authenticity is yourself, your personality. But if you want to change something, you can always seek inspiration, try different styles, try different things that will make you a better communicator in professional and personal life. Yeah. So seeking inspiration and practice and removing this mindset of log kya kahenge will certainly help you in this entire process of overcoming your challenges or pitfalls. नहीं तो आप पढ़ते रहेंगे, trainings करते रहेंगे, improvement कुछ नहीं आएगा. Yes. So practice is what is going to make us all perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Chiradeep.
Yeah. Thank you so much for these two very important aspects that we always role model तो हम लोग देखते हैं, but लोग क्या कहेंगे ज्यादा देखते हैं. So मेरे बारे में अगर मैं बताऊं, अगर लोग क्या कहेंगे, अगर वही मैं देखता, then I would not have been what I am today. क्योंकि वो हमेशा दबा देता है, लोग हमेशा आपको पुल करते हैं बैक से.
Correct.
So it is always important for us to identify our strength. I remember one statement of Usha Uthukji. She came in a reality show, singing reality show, and उनको वो पूछा गया था that how you managed to grow in your life, like you had such a manly voice, okay, and he said, I made my weakness my strength.
Beautiful.
Okay, and that really made, I mean, that I resonate with that, I relate with that particular line so much. I was like, wow, that's such a beautiful thing. And we all know that we all accepted his manly voice. When she sings fabulously, and we accept him as she is. Okay. So the same thing of अगर हम लोग क्या कहेंगे सिर्फ देखते जाएंगे, then we will be like watchers only, observers, that's all. We won't be performers. So thank you so much for encouraging us and empathically telling us that we need to focus on not log kya kahenge, but and take someone रोल मॉडल, उसको फॉलो नहीं करना है. शाहरुख खान जैसा हेयर स्टाइल रखना नहीं है, या कोई सुष्मिता सेन जैसा हेयर स्टाइल रखना नहीं है, बट द वैल्यू she imparts. I know, I also admire Susmita Sen. When she stands on the podium, she speaks worth. I mean, उसका वैल्यू कोई invaluable है वो सब. So I really like her. So let's move on to the last question, last puzzle, which is kind of difficult. I'm sure Rashmi can beat it. And these first three questions I asked about personal life, and she dealt it. And the fourth and fifth questions, they were about professional life, how we can handle the pitfalls, challenges, and also some examples she gave. And the last one is, it is more, I mean, the whole program is audience-based, but this one is more for them, like building on the theme of transformation. That is what we both intended in the first place. Building on the theme of transformation through communication in daily life, can you, Rashmi, please share some key takeaways that our audience can live with and apply in their lives, daily lives?
Right.
Okay. Before they leave this, before I end this webinar, what lessons or what takeaways they have from you?
Yeah,
please.
So I think we are almost 6 minutes into the
yeah, it's okay if we
I'll make it
cross
quick.
a bit.
Yeah. So I think takeaways तो हमारे बहुत सारे share किए गए हैं, but in each and every training program that I conduct, I believe that there has to be some kind of a mental model or a framework that people can live with, which can remind them of the individual that has spoken or the learnings that they have had in a particular session. So when Chiradeep told me about this session, of course, I preempted a lot of aspects that will be discussed. And there's one thing that I really wanted to share was a framework, something that you can just take with you and think about, and something that will bring a smile on your faces, perhaps. So this framework that I'm going to talk about is called the MAGIC framework, which I created 2 days ago. And MAGIC framework is nothing but an acronym. The word MAGIC is an acronym here, where each letter stands for something. So in this context, the first letter, M, in the space of personal relationships would be making time. Make time for each other, guys. And in that time, ये नहीं करना है. In that time, communicate when you can. We are so engrossed in our work and our daily lives, and even on social media for that matter. We've become a pro at building relationships, by the way, on social media. And here we're not talking about that. But when it comes to face-to-face interaction, even with family members, हम कितनी देर बैठ के बात करते हैं? Just ask this question. We're blaming it on time. We're blaming it on workload. That is not the case. And the same thing is also applicable at a workplace. काम तो होते रहेगा. How much time have you really spent with your team members? Do you even spare 5-10 minutes to just have a quick chat with them? We do trainings on team building and all that. ये team building training जरूरी है, but everyday basis पे ये कर सकते हैं. You may not have to invest so much of money. Of course, this is my business. I shouldn't be talking about it. But the reality of the matter is daily basis पे अगर आप ये करें, your bonding will be much stronger with your team members, with your family members too. Yeah. So there has to be some difference between AI and humans, right? The only thing that differentiates us is the connection that we build, and that connection can happen if we spend time together. So please set aside some time for the people that are important in your life, the relationships that matter to you. That's the M. The A in magic stands for acceptance of relationship dynamics. Yeah. By dynamics, I mean the behavioral patterns, the interactions that we have. Yeah. छोटी-छोटी चीजें, nooks होती है. All that comes under relationship dynamics. Sometimes we don't always have the best dynamics. सब कुछ पता है, awareness है, but फिर भी relationship dynamics सही नहीं है. So what do we do in such a case? Coming back to the point that I shared, in such a case, let's not find faults or blame someone or ourselves. Let's just raise our skills, our awareness. Like I said, if that relationship means to you, जो है, time के साथ चीजें change होंगी, ये belief system रख के चलना है. Acceptance of your relationship dynamics. Don't be in denial. Yeah. The G of magic framework is one of the most powerful words right now in the universe. A lot of us practice that. And the G, my dear friends, is gratitude. Being grateful to your relationships, irrespective of your debates, your fights, your conflicts, your arguments, doesn't matter. At least you have somebody who's there to listen to you, जिसके ऊपर आप vent out कर सकते हैं, जो आपके ऊपर चिल्ला सकता है. You have somebody like that in your life. Think about the people who are alone. Yeah, that is the beauty of India, by the way, where we just believe in living in a very, very social kind of a setup, very closely knit family setup. So be grateful for whatever relationships you have in life, and slowly things will change. Count your blessings. The I in magic framework, just 1 minute into the session now. So the I really is about initiating conversations. So the biggest problem, which I highlighted through one of my recent videos, is silent treatment, which is detrimental to relationships. Now people experience, I'm sure Chiradeep will agree here, being the life coach dealing with mental health issues, I meant. People experience mental health issues due to the silent treatment. They're punishing themselves and they're punishing the people around them with the silent treatment, guys. ये करके क्या मिलेगा? ये करने से कुछ हासिल नहीं होता. Your communication, your relationships will get worse, unfortunately. Taking time out, taking space, breathing is one thing, but silent treatment is another thing. So irrespective kiski galti hai, always try to initiate a conversation to maintain a good relationship. And lastly, the C, which is what is the essence of today's session. The C is about compassion in our communication, compassion in our language. It doesn't take too much of effort to say a quick thank you, a sorry, or I appreciate what you're doing for me. I'm grateful for what you're doing for me. It's okay. तुमने ये कर दिया, कोई बात नहीं. I know you didn't mean what you said. These are all words and phrases that will make your communication, as opposed to words like तुम समझोगे ही नहीं कुछ भी. I know you're going to say this. You won't understand what I'm feeling right now. You're trying to avoid me. I know what you're thinking. तुम अभी यही बोलने वाले हो. These are all negative statements. These are all egoistic statements. And these statements have the power to break the communication. So let's look at compassion in our language, guys. Yeah. And in the process, सब कुछ सही करने के बाद भी अगर चीजें सही नहीं हो रही है, don't be too hard on yourself. Leave it to nature. Don't doubt your efforts. Things always have a way of working out. You just keep doing your action. Have compassion for yourself in the process. And just like that, magic will happen in your life. That's what I wanted to share as a framework, Chiradeep.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. This 6 of my puzzle I framed for trapping Rashmi Keshwani. He solved it so easily within 1 hour. And magic, the framework is really magical.
Does the audience find it magical?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Thank you, Huzefa. Thank you, Huzefa. So sweet of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Preet. Thank you, Rajesh.
I hope they find it magical because in our daily lives, if we don't make time for each other, like if all of you would not have come given time, you are not just listening, but you are also encouraging me and Rashmi. You're coming here and listening to us. Some of you are real encouragement for us. And acceptance of relationship dynamics. That's very essential. And G is for gratitude, right? You said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gratitude. And without gratitude, we can't survive. Like it's a practice, no? Thanksgiving is a practice. I really envy Western culture, like Americans. They have Thanksgiving week, literally like in the first week of December. We don't have those things. We take things for granted. We don't say thank you to our colleagues or our family members. We take things for granted.
Actually, we do. In our culture, we have a lot of festivals where we do.
Yeah.
In a Jain culture, I think there is something called Michami Dukadam, which means, you are asking for forgiveness for all the things that you've said or done to someone. So the thing is, hum bhi na बहुत ज़्यादा westernized हो गए हैं. We also do not know what's happening in our own culture. What is the significance of festivals? So there are definitely, it's of course not glorified like some of the stuff that you said.
We follow things just like that. We don't understand.
Yeah. बताया गया है तो करे जा रहे हैं.
That's all.
Yes.
Then
what mentality?
Yeah. Then I is for initiating. So if you don't initiate, then you don't have the desire.
Yeah.
वो समझ में आता है. And compassion is the lifeblood of everything. Like compassion नहीं होगा तो वो communication कभी empathetic हो ही नहीं सकता.
Absolutely.
And CBT, communication behavioral therapy technique, whatever you say, is failed. The webinar is failed. So we are a failure if you don't practice it in your daily life. Remember that. Absolutely. And it will be even for us, like for Rashmi in her professional and personal life, in my personal and professional life, I need to follow all these things that we jotted down probably, or remembered or kept in our mind. So thank you so much for being so patient with both of us. And already we are 5 minutes late, but I hope that it's not a boring one. So I enjoyed personally conducting this webinar and listening to Rashmi.
Thank you so
I'm not listening to her for the first time. I'm listening to her maybe second, third time. So it's a joy to listen to her about communication. I could have taught her. I could have taught all of you guys, but this expertise, communication, your cognition is my expertise. Communication is Rashmi's expertise. So I thought, let me invite as a special guest, and she did justice to my invitation and honoring me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay. For the audience, I haven't seen any questions yet. Shipra, is there any question? Not from you, from audience? अगर कोई भी unmute करके कुछ पूछ सकता है या पूछ सकती है तो okay. There is
so Chirag, this is Rahul Ramchandran. So, like, I have a question with regards to what they saw in this Khamoshi and Koshish movie. So, like, if there is one person, if there are two friends, so for example, one person is deaf and dumb, but he can see, and other person can speak but cannot hear, then how do they communicate?
Yeah, it's not
Interesting question.
It's not deaf and dumb, actually. It's hearing impaired, or
Okay.
Yeah, that's the new concept.
Okay.
So, okay, Rashmi.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I don't remember watching Koshish, but I have seen Khamoshi when I was in school. So I think you're referring to the Nana Patekar movie, right? Which had Manisha Koirala.
Right.
So to answer your question, there was a couple who were deaf and mute or hearing impaired, like you said, but they understood their own communication. So there was never really an issue. And for them to communicate with the external janta, the world, they had a beautiful daughter in the form of Manisha Koirala, who became their voice in the movie. And she was able to understand sign language because she grew up with her parents and she didn't have an option but to grow with her parents in the process. Yeah, so I really don't have an answer to someone who's hearing impaired otherwise, but the answer is there in the movie itself. Manisha Koirala was blessed with her abilities. Imagine if she would have turned out like her parents, then maybe things could have got a little challenging. But काफी सारी चीजें ना body language से होती है. There are sign languages. There are a lot of things that one can learn, and people are learning nowadays because sometimes some families experience these things with kids as well. So ऐसे time पे क्या करें? Will you stop communicating with your kids? No, you have to grow. You have to learn things in which you can continue that communication. Yeah. So parents learn this as well.
So we have to find a way where there is a connect with both and communicate that way. That is the only answer.
And that is true for every aspect of life, not just communication.
Okay.
जो जरूरत है, उसमें we have to find a way.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer these questions because my cousin is hearing impaired. Okay. So, and as we all know, those who suffer with some disability, okay, their other senses become very strong. And my brother can easily read our lips and communicate with us. We have developed. And my bhabi, she always tells us that why don't you learn ISL, Indian Sign Language, or ASL, whatever it is, so that we can communicate with him. So I know A-E-I-O-U. So I know few of all the alphabets A to Z I know, so that I can, if I'm unable to make him understand, I use those signs. So to develop ourselves, as I gave an example, if I want to talk to someone up there or down there, I have to come to his or her level to communicate. It is very essential. So that's how I have been doing with my brother, my cousin.
So matlab, I get the sense or the spirit that it is not how you communicate, but bhavana pachni chahiye, bas utna hi hai. If the thoughts are going through both ways, it's good enough. Doesn't matter what is the mode. That will come with practice.
Rahul, sometimes we both cousins, we speak with our eyes. जैसे आपने बोला.
Okay.
ठीक है. We just speak with our eyes and expressions. बस बाकी बाहर का दुनिया बिल्कुल अनजान है what we were communicating with each other.
And
Okay.
I want to add something to this, Chiradeep, if I
Yeah,
may,
please.
to Rahul's question, and then we'll move to Shipra because she had a question as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So
She raised her
Rahul,
hand.
यहाँ पे
Yes.
तो हम language की बात कर रहे हैं या sign language की बात कर रहे हैं. But how do we communicate with pets? There is still a relationship, right? There is some
Yes.
communication that happens. जैसे आपने भावनाओं की बहुत beautiful बात की.
हाँ.
Let's understand what our intentions are, how we are wired or how we are built and how we are going to treat them. And that's how they give us their love. Yeah. So language is not always necessary for communication. It is your intent and your desire and the ability to
Okay,
find
so you
ways
mean to say that, like we communicate, if the kid is crying for milk or is crying for playing, that the mother understand. Same thing if the cat or dog is something, only their parent can understand. Other people will not.
Absolutely.
So it depends on the level of bonding. If the bonding is there, then the language will take care of itself.
Yes.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for that
thank
question.
you, thank you.
Shipra, your question, please. I can allow only 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Sir, I can see Rajesh has raised his hand, and Shipra, please.
Actually, it was a continuation of that topic only,
Okay.
which Rahul said. So I will just share one incident. मैं लोकल स्टेशन पे थी मुंबई में. वहां पे एक कपल थे मिड एज में और वो ब्लाइंड थे. और वो फोन लेके फिर भी वो उनके पास सैमसंग का फोन था. स्टिल दे वर वेरी इट वाज वेरी मच इजी फॉर देम टू एक्सेस इट. उनको पता था कि कहाँ पे कॉल लगता है, कहाँ से टेक्स्ट जाता है, सब पता था उनको. टच था वो फोन. लेकिन साथ में उनका एक बच्चा भी था जो उनको ले जा रहा था. इट डजंट मीन मतलब भावना ही हर टाइम नहीं होती है, क्योंकि हम भी अगर कभी बात करते हैं डजंट मीन कि हमारे इमोशन से इसलिए हम बात कर रहे हैं. आंखों और एक इंसान के पास सारे डिफेक्ट्स नहीं रहेंगे, वो सारी तरीके से इम्पेयर्ड नहीं रहेगा, उसमें कोई ना कोई हियरिंग स्किल रहेंगे. मैं जब अपना प्रैक्टिस कर रही थी, आई हैड वन सीनियर एडवोकेट. उनका नाम विजिबिलिटी बहुत कम हो गया था ड्यूरिंग हिज कॉलेज टाइम. लेकिन वो एक बार में एक पिटिशन जो कि 200 पेजेस की होती है, he used to just listen and then like plead in front of court. So उन्होंने वो स्किल डेवलप किया. तो ये जो मूवी का जो उन्होंने कंटेक्स्ट दिए, इट मीन्स कि उन्होंने दूसरा जो भी है स्किल्स डेवलप करते ही है, उनको वो अपडेट करते ही है. That's what the thing is.
Yeah, very nice, very nice.
Brilliantly put, Shipra.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yes, Rajesh, please.
Very good evening. I want to add to what Chiradeep said. I had the privilege of interacting with his cousin Anurag, and we were in Delhi and we have fellowship with them. They are an exemplary couple. I mean, he's such a humble. He said very little about him. There's so much that can be said about Anurag, and he's a wonderful human being. He touches lives wherever he goes. I mean, like he said, you can communicate with him through your eyes. And Bhabi, I mean to say, she is my wife's cousin also. So basically, they are very closely, they have the wonderful bond between them. And they understand, they not only understand each other, but they are able to counsel and reach out to so many people. They were in a hospital. They impacted many, many lives, and we were part of that fellowship. And I remember they impacted many lives, even though he was not able to speak, communicate verbally, but through his actions, emotions, and his love, he was really impactful. So Chiradeep, I think I can only add because I was there with them and we could spend so much of time with them. So yeah, it's wonderful. And Rashmiji, thank you for the magic that you created. It has really impacted us. We have learned so much. And thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Hope to communicate someday with both of you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anytime.
So you have already created magic. It's not magic framework anymore. Good. So
I think we are done with the questions.
yeah.
Belated happy birthday, Chiradeep. It was your birthday 2 days ago.
So any more questions? I mean, people are messaging me that they want to speak, but it's already late. So I just want to give our links so that if you need anything,
So sorry to interrupt, Chiradeep. I would like to just mention, if you have the question what I have, then you should watch Kamoshi and this.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you watch Black movie, then you will get lot of answers.
yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
over to you, Chiradeep. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So I and Rashmi will write our what do you call our links, LinkedIn links. If any of you want to like connect with us, you can do that freely.
I hope you all enjoyed the session, guys, and we look forward to seeing you more in our upcoming sessions on different topics. I hope Chiradeep will invite me sometime soon, and I can also, prepare in the. So it was a wonderful, couple of days for me as well, Chiradeep. Despite the health that I have right now, I somewhere had this mindset ki mujhe karna hai, so I got better. So thank you so much for.
Yeah. Thank you so much for honoring me and accepting my invitation. Thank you so much for joining all of you. I know the time is the biggest enemy, so we will stop here. And good night, everyone.